Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Hops Geek News, a podcast where we talk about comic books, movies, TV shows, and we sometimes go into character deep dives and all the good stuff. So if you found us, great. You know where to look. Or maybe you're here by accident. I don't know. Whatever floats your boat. Either way, search Hops News on all your podcasting platforms, including YouTube. That's where we will be. Just search for anything that says geeks in the name, and that's us. And so without further ado, I am one of your two co hosts, MASH. And alongside me is the Hoppy Mommy, aka Lauren.
Yes, I'm the other half of Hops Geek News, and I am drinking a fantastic Idaho beer that was sent to me by you. And while this may be debuting after National Beer Day, it is National Beer Day. And I'll give a little bit of beer news real quick if you didn't see our Hops News episode tonight. This is in celebration of prohibition being partially rescinded when they changed the amount of ABV allowed in the Volstead Act, which is the actual Prohibition Act. And FDR, when he signed the act, basically said, great time to have a beer. So April 7th is National Beer Day, and that is why.
It is. And also, April marks every year, it is Idaho Craft Beer Month. And so, this being the first, nope, it's actually the second Thursday in April, or it's actually Wednesday.
True.
So, it is the first Wednesday in April. And with that said, that's when we're recording, obviously,
I was going to
April
say, but when this
7th.
airs, it'll be our
When
second
it
episode in
airs,
April.
it'll be, anyways, regardless, we
Look
decided
at
we're going to go
that.
with a really good, you might have heard of them. They've been on our podcast a couple times. Woodland Empire out of Boise, Idaho. They're kicking off our Idaho Craft Beer Month. And so that said, we're drinking Ada County Stout, which is a once a year beer from them. It is made with raw cocoa and cold brewed Neckar coffee, and it's aged in rum barrels and maple syrup barrels. So if you know it has maple syrup in it, you know I'm going to go crazy for it. And
It's
it's
fantastic.
it's
Oh, it's so
delicious.
good.
It is. You get that good stout taste initially, and then on the back end, you really get the maple syrup. And if you're on YouTube, you see here I'm drinking out of the Pints Up Idaho from last
Look at
year.
that.
Look
We
at that. We're
both
even drinking
are.
the
How
same glass.
beautiful.
It's a beautiful glass. They have a new one out this year, which looks even cooler. And so I'm hoping to get my hands on a couple of those for us. And speaking of glasses, rumor has it that the
Ooh.
geeks have a couple pint glasses that are now in my possession to figure out whether we want to sell them or probably do giveaways with them. I don't know. We're gonna figure it out. We're gonna talk. We're gonna figure something out.
They're in your hands now.
Yes, they're in my hands, but at the same time, we're gonna figure out a way that is fair to the both of us and fair to our listeners and all of our homies in Bruges out there. So
Whew. This
if
is
you're
so
watching on
good.
YouTube, you can see our glass right here. We're ordering color ones. We have black and white ones. We have posted on our Twitter. So be on the lookout for that. And yeah, lots of great things. Also be on the lookout. We just did an episode with Hop Barons, which is a great barbecue rub. They have all their spices and they use hops in them. Well, if it's still going on at this point that you're listening, if you buy anything from them, discount code Hops News gets you 25% off. And we don't get any money from that. It's strictly to them,
No.
which is phenomenal
As
because
long as
they're
you spend at least 14 bucks, which one thing of their
their
spice is
rubs.
14 bucks. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so fucking worth it.
It's so amazingly good. They are a smaller company out of Pennsylvania and they are phenomenal. They will change your life. I promise you with the barbecue rubs that they have. And they are also getting ready to do an event this week where they're going to go and help culinary students at a local high school cook with either their rubs and they're going to distribute meals out. And so what we are actually doing is buying some meals that they cook from the culinary school and we're going to donate them to the homeless shelter at the location that they are at. So that's even cooler. And then it sounds like I guess I'm going to be doing a collaboration with them as well about some spices
Ooh.
because I'm in Idaho and hunting is a huge thing. They have a game spice rub, and so they're gonna. I guess they're gonna get with me, and I'm gonna get with them, and we're gonna have a collab. So a lot of great things coming out for the Geeks crew. I appreciate everybody. We appreciate everybody. Thank you for sticking along with us to this point. And with that said, all the positivity aside, What did we fuck up last week?
Oh, see, I was going to go into more positivity real quick.
Oh, go ahead. Give us your
Just to
positivity real quick.
promote
Let's
our
ride this train.
we did a little episode last week with Four Nerds by Nerds. We spoke with Josh, and it was all about Godzilla versus King Kong. And we didn't really talk about our beer on that episode, but we did drink an Atomic Duck IPA from Able Baker Brewing in Vegas, which you got in Vegas and sent it all the way to Florida. But yeah, we'll post
Yes.
that on the Instagram. That was awesome. So I just wanted to say real quick, if you are into the movies or not into the movies, you should check out the episode. There are spoilers in it. So if you want to watch the movies first, there's Godzilla, which is 2014. That is not on HBO Max. You do have to pay for that if you want to watch it, but you don't necessarily need to watch all the other ones. But Kong Skull Island 2017, Godzilla King of the Monsters
You sure it's
for
not Munster?
who is the podcast that called it that
Oblivion
said I
Bar. It
you
was
know what's
Chris.
funny? So we had Oblivion Bar not that long ago. And when I re-listened to that, I was like, oh my God, I do say monsters. And I think it's all the time I spend with kids. It's like
I'm
I
just
call
picturing
pumpkins
Frankenstein.
pumpkins. And I call monsters monsters. I try to make them all sound more friendly. I don't know. But
It's
then Godzilla
Munsters.
vs. King Kong 2021 is what we really dove into. And
It was
those last
so
three are all
fucking
on
good.
HBO Max. If you want to watch them and then listen to the review, go for it. If you don't want to watch them, Four Nerds by Nerds does a great breakdown
Yes.
of everything. So,
Basically, just check out Four
and
Nerds by Nerds because Josh is incredible. He's really great. And be on the lookout. He's going to come join us soon. And if nothing else, I'm sorry I cut you off. I totally
no,
apologize
you're
because I
good.
have a habit of doing that. The animations and the videos that they put out to pump up their episodes, to just even streaming on Twitch, things of that nature, are top tier. Like
Mhm.
they have some of the best animations in the game. So please, I highly encourage check out Four Nerds by Nerds because it's just my man's killing the game out there. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, and we had a great time just talking Godzilla versus Kong. And this was actually the first time Godzilla ever went up against Kong in an American made movie. So, if you want to hear our opinions and all that, yeah, let's check it out. Okay, so on to We're Not Experts.
Speaking of Godzilla versus Kong, apparently
Oh,
I cannot get Kyle Chandler
oh.
and Ron Livingston right. And this is what
We
I fucked up because two
did
weeks in a
discuss this
row,
on our wrestling episode.
we discussed this on our wrestling episode. We discussed it when we talked about the Snyder cut. And I even brought it up in our discussion review for Godzilla versus Kong. I apparently just all white people look alike to me. And I don't know because I thought Kyle
He
Chandler
is
and
a
Ron
white
Livingston
person,
were the
folks.
same goddamn person, and I'm a white, and so it's just like I don't know. So that's on me. Hoppy doesn't have anything this week. It's all me. So I will own that. I got called on it while I was doing it, but nonetheless, that's 3 weeks in a
Yeah, and it was funny as he goes,
row.
"You're doing it again," which means he had heard us fuck it up the
Oh, he
week
listened,
before.
yeah, because he hit me up. Josh hit me up on our Snyder Cut episode, and he was like, "You were doing so well course correcting until you got Ron Livingston," and I was like,
But that was both of us. We both like deep dove into that. And you know what's funny though is like I know that like Kyle Chandler's not the dude from Office Space, but I didn't like they. I don't know. I didn't
they
fix it
look
either. So
alike. I
they
don't.
do.
I swear to God, they're the same person. Okay,
But I mean, I
so
confused, Eric Banner or Bana and what's the other credit guy? But we're not going to go into our old fuck ups, whatever. No, the only thing I wanted to say is we did make a comment last week about people posting things and saying like, "Wow, Hoppy and Mash are really knowledgeable." And sometimes I listen back to our episodes and I'm like, "Wow, I sound like a real bitch." So I just want to say, anybody who says that, I take that as a huge compliment because I don't feel like our level of knowledge is super, or at least me personally, is super high, but I do put a lot of research into our shows.
we
So
do. We
I
do
take
do
that as a huge
research.
compliment. Yes, I do actual research. This is not just on a cuff.
We don't go
But
off
I
the cuff.
genuinely love off the cuff. There you go. There's a fuck up for next week. I genuinely love researching beer and comic books. And like if I could get paid to just do that all day, that's what I would do. I'm not in the beer industry.
Me
I'm not in the
too.
comic
We don't. If
industry,
I could brew beer,
but I love
talk
it all.
comic books, and somehow work the both together, like that would be the life, wouldn't it? I mean,
It really would. And I
I,
mean, I do a lot of it for Hops
we
News and Hops
do.
Geek, but
We and I gotta tell you, like
we don't get
Lauren,
paid
if
except
there
for
is
with your
somebody
compliments.
you really do put forth the most effort. I wish I put forth the amount of effort that you do, especially for beer school. If you haven't checked out any of our beer school episodes, since I like go check out the beer schools that she compiled on YouTube, that maybe she wrote on hopsnews.beer, which is our website that's in the work. Like, it's our current website. We're working on a better one. But like, there's just so much that I've learned from them. And I just go nerd out, go check it out. That's
Well, it's
all.
hard. Once I start researching something, I just fall down that, rabbit hole and I want to learn more.
Yeah. And
So,
it's
I
all
mean, no,
really
it truly
interesting.
is a hobby. Obviously, that's why we do it.
You're telling
We
me
do
we don't get
it
paid for
for
this
the
shit?
love of it,
I
right?
don't get paid enough for this
Okay.
shit.
We're getting
So,
too old for this shit. So, what have you read or
anyway,
watched?
yeah, I saw Godzilla versus Kong in a movie theater, and it was glorious. It was
Mm.
great. We went out to a place called Yard House before to get some dinner. I had some street tacos because I was
We have
really,
one of those in Orlando.
yeah, it was good. They had a lot of good beer, and the wife and I, we went. It was her idea. She picked the place to eat, which was a really good choice. And I had a Cali Cream and Nitro, and then I had the Buzz Buzz from Salmon River Brewing. Both really good beers, but I was really saving my body for popcorn, like buttery
For
ass movie
popcorn, for
popcorn
true movie theater
and
popcorn.
bunch of crunch. Like, that was my jam. And God, it was delicious. I mowed that with a slushy. And so, yeah, I watched Invincible. I'm not up to date though. I am slightly behind. And so I think I keep falling asleep during it. Like, I don't mind
But if you're
Invincible.
reading it, I don't encourage you to speed up watching it, honestly.
Yeah, I'm just kind of like slow pacing. For some reason, like, I like it, but I'm not just I have to watch it and consume it right then and there all at one time. I'm kind of taking my time with it,
See,
enjoying it.
see, I have questions. Like somebody was asking me when I was at the comic book shop last week, and they're like, "Okay, you're watching it. What do you think about it?" And I was like, "Well, I'm I have mixed feelings on actually watching it
Yeah.
because I felt like they did something too soon, and then I wasn't sure if they did it too soon because it's a huge part in the book, and I wasn't really sure how somebody who hadn't read it felt about I'm really trying hard not to spoil this because it's still
Yeah.
such an early on show, and I feel like it's one of those shows a lot of people don't know about yet, and it's not like Soldier and Falcon, or Falcon and Winter Soldier, where everybody has heard about it, so they most likely have seen it. But I just encourage everybody to read it. It's such a good book, such a good comic. I like cannot wait until my second phone book compendium 2 comes, because it doesn't stop getting good. It doesn't stop having those like, "Oh shit, I didn't see this coming." Like Robert Kirkman is like a through and through comic book genius. I mean, he is so good. And this is a few years old. So, I mean, it's been out for a while. I don't love necessarily the animation, and I do get confused watching it because it looks exactly like the comic book. I find myself being like, wait, was that the comic? Was that the show? Which one came first? Because in the show, it seems like they're doing a lot is they're taking stuff right out of the comic, but they're kind of mixing up the chronological order. So it's kind
Oh,
of
that makes sense.
thrown me off a little bit. And then I feel like there's some things they're kind of hinting at, but they're not like definitively saying, whereas you kind of know what's going on if you've read it. So, it's always hard when you've watched something before or
Right.
you've
You
read
kind of
something before and
know
you
and
watch it, but
expect what's going to happen. And yeah, I don't know. I like it. I'm just taking my time. Just taking my
yeah, I
time.
may have just confused everybody more. I'm sorry. What
Whatever.
else have
I
you
I
watched?
haven't read or watched. I've been this month, this last few weeks has been so insanely busy work-wise. I have so much it feels like all I'm doing is just talking to people at work during, like, it's just insane. So I haven't had any time to really do much else. And so I haven't watched a Falcon and Winter Soldier, which
Yeah,
Zemo, that's my spirit animal. Him dancing in the club
the
is literally
dancing.
him. There's a Zemo cut, apparently, for that dance. It's longer. Daniel Bruhl, which is in our news portion I was going to talk about, he said that there's a longer cut of that dance scene, and so people are like, release the Zemo cut. That's a thing, and give me more of that. Heck yeah,
The like cliche white guy at the club.
yeah. That's
So
exactly that's how I
funny.
am. So what have you read or watched?
Um, Pretty yeah, that's pretty much it. It's Falcon and Winter Soldier and then Invincible. And then with Falcon and Winter Soldier though, I did want to point out they did make it to Madripoor. And when by the time you're listening to this, we are an episode behind.
Yes.
And the Princess Bar, Wolverine, who he goes by Patch when he's on the island of Madripoor, he is a silent partner in that bar. So I was very excited when I saw that. But outside of that, I watched the movie Bad Trip on Netflix with my husband.
What's that?
He So it's got a couple recognizable comedians, and they did kind of like a Borat style movie where they have an actual storyline that they're progressing, but they're basically playing pranks on real people to move the story along. And it's incredibly stupid, but it's funny. It's not as like, oh my God, cringeworthy as when you're watching Borat, but it's also not as funny as when you're watching Borat. But
Right.
it was definitely funny. There's some inappropriate scenes with gorillas and stuff, but it's a guy in a suit. But yeah, that's on Netflix. It was funny. It was interesting. Other than that, I watched a little bit of Supernatural because I got a little competition going on soon
Oh,
with somebody
Dad's on
with
Dayquil.
Supernatural.
No. The gnome is going to be joining us for an episode, and I'm going to put together a little trivia Supernatural. He said that he can take Hoppy on, and so that's going
Oh,
to happen.
bitch, please! I will own you. We will see. We shall see. You're going
So
down. All right. So, what's your news? We got any news?
yeah, so I, man, this Ray Fisher story, right? That's Ray Fisher.
That's a
If
long
you've
story
been
now.
kind of
Yeah.
following, he has been very vocal against Warner Brothers, which for good reason, because if you've read the Hollywood Reporter, if you've read that article that just came out, a lot of stuff came out that basically like Warner Brothers was trying to paint him as like the angry black man, and Joss Whedon was just kind of like trying to tell him how he should act. They were trying to just get him like one of the, I forget the name, but one of the execs was basically like, what if my kids watch and they're expecting you to say booyah, which is a tagline that got put by Cyborg on Teen Titans, which is like a cartoon show for kids. So of course that's there. And so like they tried to put a little bit, and the guy who had wrote Cyborg was basically like, Ray, I stand with you, because there was pressure to include that into the comics. And I felt like it detracted. And Cyborg, if you watch the Snyder cut, he has a very serious, like he has a journey, and he's behind that film. And so you see kind of what he went through. Apparently, like Joss Whedon really was basically like, Gal, I will ruin your career if you don't do this one thing. He was very shitty towards her. Ben Affleck tried to stage a walkout, and Jeremy Irons even was like, these lines are fucking stupid. And then, of course, Warner Brothers is basically like, Zack Snyder has um, corrupted Ray and kind of made him think this way, trying to, because this has nothing to do with Zack Snyder, but they're still trying to pin it on him for some reason. And so Warner Brothers is a mess. They are disgraceful. It really sucks that DC's properties are under Warner Brothers, because they are such a disgrace of a company. And Joss Whedon is just a despicable man. And even Jeff Johns was just like, you know, doing some things to kind of excuse certain stuff, and then was basically trying to use the excuse of like, oh, my ex-wife is black, oh, I am married to a half Asian woman. And it was all basically excuses, which Ray Fisher called out as well. So I'm not saying like let's cancel Jeff Johns, but like he should also be held responsible a little bit, because he was kind of in charge of all these properties, overseeing, and he let it happen. And then just like Walter Hamada and all them kind of were enabling it. And it's just a really shitty story, because Ray was a good actor. And it turns out that everybody was shitting on Ray Fisher, being like, oh, he just keeps talking about accountability over entertainment and this, that, or the other. And it turns out he was right. And all the stuff
Right.
that had leaked a year ago, he was right. And like even Ben Affleck was about to punch Joss Whedon in his face. And so it's a really shitty situation. And
Well,
I feel for them. I feel for all the
it
actors
sounded a
involved.
lot like though there were other people who had talked to him, but he wasn't going to drop names unless they were comfortable speaking. So I feel like that was a lot of the shit he got put on him was like, well, who else are you talking about? Who else had issues? So I know it's one of those situations like you really don't know the story unless you're inside of it. But I mean, he's stuck with his story for a while, and
He's
he is.
stuck with it. Yes.
I mean, if you listen to our Snyderverse cut episode, I did not love that story, but that story is so much better in the Snyderverse than it is in the original because there's actually progression. And at the end, he's not a total tool. At the beginning, I feel like he's a whiny teenager, but he needed to get there because I feel like in the original, which I've only seen once a million years ago
Oh,
or
I only saw it in
2017.
theaters. Like once I saw it in theaters, that bullshit was enough for me. That was
But
it.
yeah, I don't remember his
The
character being
Flash,
much of anything.
he didn't do anything. They cut out so much. And in the Snyder cut, he actually has a journey. Like the line
Yeah,
"I'm not
he's not just a
broken."
whiny little shit
No,
at the end.
and like the "I'm not broken" was a heavy line, and he actually really did well in that movie, and you felt for him because the dude was just a football star who got into a terrible car accident, and now he's a
Right, and they didn't show
robot.
any of this in the Whedon
Yeah,
version.
now he's a
He's a
robot.
cyborg.
Well,
Robot
right.
is no
He's mostly
organic material.
cyborg built off the mother box. And so he's still supposed to be a teenager and he's gone through all this shit. Like hell, I'd be broody too. And
I'd be pretty too.
I'm broody now. I'm 30 years
Uh,
old, but like so there's
he's
like a lot
so
of depth.
old, folks. So old.
Well, Ray
All right.
Fisher in real life. So yeah, it's just read the
Well,
story.
yeah,
Go to
because
Hollywood
everybody who plays
Reporter,
a high school
read the
person
story,
is
and
30.
I am very, very, very interested in seeing what Warner Brothers what happens. Is AT&T going to basically like clean house? I'm interested. Like, let's see what happens. The joke was, what kind of shit is Warner Brothers going to release for us today? Which they went ahead and they released the Long Halloween trailer, the animated Batman movie.
Woohoo.
That's going to be a really great animated movie because DC actually does animation really well. And The Long Halloween is a very good story. It has like all of Batman's rogue gallery in it. And there's a killer that only kills on like Halloween and it takes place. It's going to be a two
You said on
parter.
holidays,
Yeah, on holidays, but
because
it's
there's
pretty
some
much
Christmas too in there.
that's right. That's right. And so yeah, it's gonna be part one's PG-13, but part two is gonna be rated R, and the first one kicks off this summer, and it's gonna be wicked good. I'm fucking there for this shit.
Yep.
And last thing I have is restore the MonsterVerse. We all King Kong versus Godzilla. Apparently, that was the last film under like Legendary and all theirs contract, and so it's kind of in limbo. And so everyone's basically like, restore the MonsterVerse because we want more of this, which we do. It was their biggest opening weekend in the box office since COVID hit. We want
Hmm.
more of this, so give us more of that, and that's kind of what I have.
All right. So there is a brewing video game coming called
What?
Brewmaster. So you can simulate your own brew. It's coming to Xbox, PlayStation, and Switch.
I'm
So, I
there.
mean, it's, the actual act of brewing, obviously, you want to taste it at the end, but it is kind of a neat concept because you can pick hops and your barley
Yeah,
and your ingredients and everything, so they give you an idea of like this is what the flavor profile would be at the end of the day if you did all this correctly. So that's kind of cool.
that is pretty
um
sweet.
there is a new Disney Pixar film coming exclusively to Disney Plus on June 18th with no upcharge called Luca.
Okay, actually, I want to talk about this for a second. I'm so sorry.
No, it's a little bit controversial.
It is. And I'll let you finish. You go ahead and finish first.
So Luca lives in Italy and he is secretly a sea monster. Now the Pixar employees are not happy about Disney Plus because they do not have an upcharge. And if you know, Soul came out on Christmas and there was no upcharge. Meanwhile,
Yes.
all the actual Disney movies that are not Pixar, they
Cruella that
are
nobody
charging.
fucking
Yes.
asked for?
Cruella comes out on May 28th, and there will be an additional fee. It will also be in theaters, but it looks like Luca's not even going to be in theaters. So I'm
No,
not
it's
sure what.
it's the Disney animators have a Pixar, all them, they have every right to be pissed off
I
because
feel like they've had a little bit of animosity between Pixar and Disney
it takes
forever.
years. Like you have
They
to
don't, Disney
draw.
does not own Pixar. I don't
No,
believe. I believe it's still just contracts.
I believe so as well. And to come up with animated films, it takes years because there's so much that goes into it.
Oh,
Like,
I mean, yeah, you see there's documentaries where they talk about like when the first time they talked about Toy Story, they also
yeah,
talked about like Monsters Inc. and all these other ones. And I could be very off on this, but I know that they talk about these movies for years
no,
beforehand. But
they're years in the making with storyboards, drawing, and
right.
artists. They don't get paid like the actors do.
And
Like
like at this point, Disney owns Star Wars, they own Marvel, but
they own
I'm
everything.
fairly certain they do not own Pixar.
I don't believe so, and it's just
We will look that up if we're wrong.
it's so wrong that they would do because like you said, like Corella, nobody asked for a Corella Deville, and
Maybe the Dalmatians did.
nobody asked for it. So
They want their story
okay,
heard.
so Walt Disney has announced that it agreed to purchase Pixar Animation Studios. Yeah, so they do technically own Pixar.
Oh no shit. Well, look at
Nonetheless,
that. We fucked up, folks.
it's a thing in the world that artists are not properly compensated, and this is one of those cases where that voice actors are going to get bank. And then you have movies like Cruella. I don't mean to keep hounding on Emma Stone and Cruella, but that movie looks like fucking shit.
You
Let's be honest.
you feel a little about that movie like you do about Melissa McCarthy.
I feel
There's a
strongly.
deep seated
I don't
hatred.
know what it is because I don't give a shit
I'm
about the 101
not
Dalmatians, but like,
I'm not going to pay the surcharge, but I'm definitely going to watch the movie when it's included on Disney
oh, I'm
Plus.
I'm gonna get drunk and watch it for free. I'm gonna put a parental lock on it
You
so
got
my
to
son
realize though,
doesn't
like
buy it.
how much of a terrible villain is she? Because you look at all these Disney villains, and like most of them have actually done no harm. They haven't actually
She
killed
wants to
people or
kill
done anything bad.
puppies.
You have two people who have actually killed people. You got the hunter and Bambi, and you got
Let
Cruella.
that man off the hook.
Those are your
Hunting is a
two
thing of
most.
life, okay? Killing puppies is not a way of life, like hunting is in Bambi.
Deers are people too. No, they're not people
No,
too.
they're not
I
people
don't know.
too. Look, okay.
Okay.
First of all, like I just feel like
The
Emma Stone's
hunter and Bambi, dude, he fucked that shit
her
up. It's not
accent
good.
is
Okay.
just not good in the trailer. And then it's like, what? It's the Devil Wears Prada meets the 101 Dalmatians. Like,
Oh,
all
it's
the
even Glenn Close. Yeah.
well, it's
Okay.
just like she's just waltzing in there like I want to be a fashionista. Oh, I'm doing this all on heels. And it's just like, what are you angry at? What about this makes you want to go kill fucking dogs, you evil bitch? And this is a Disney movie.
Should we talk about your couch? Do you want to kill any dogs?
Look, my dog ate my couch. It's an open thing. My dog ate my couch. So I mean,
And
maybe
now he is a coat.
maybe a Dalmatian ate Cruella's dress
Couches. There you
or
go. Or yeah.
dress. And so that's her villain origin story. And now mine is he ate my couch. So I'm gonna go avenge. It's the 101 Dalmatian couches. So
Oh,
I
poor
don't know.
puppies.
Nonetheless, this movie just
But your dog's still a puppy, right?
he is.
He's
He is.
little.
Look, I'm not mad. I love that dog.
You're
He's
not
like
mad, you just need a new
I'm
couch.
just disappointed. That's all. Just
Just
disappointed.
disappointed.
Just disappointed.
Our dog peed on our Christmas tree one year. I just looked at my husband. I go, I'm just gonna walk away. You clean this up.
Me?
I can't.
So last night I came home to the couch eating and I just straight up was like, you know what? I'm gonna go water my lawn because I'm a dad. I'm old. And what I want more in life right now is to have a nice green, luscious lawn. So I went out there, mowed, watering my grass. I'm putting weed killer down. I'm taking care of my chickens. And I didn't yell. I didn't yell. I kept my cool.
Deep breaths.
I almost
Deep
lost my
breaths.
cool there.
All right, so
But yeah.
Disneyland is reopening up to California residents on April 30th. You do need reservations, which is on the app, and that's how Florida has been doing it since July. So you buy your ticket ahead of time, you go on the app, and you download a reservation. They're doing that because they are still operating the parks at lower capacity.
I should have went to Disneyland instead of Orlando. Gosh.
No, it's for California residents only.
Oh,
And if you went to California, you couldn't go on the Orlando airline. So, in Orlando at Universal's Islands of Adventure, they are opening the new Jurassic World coaster on June 10th. It is called Velocicoaster, and it actually looks pretty awesome.
the Velocicoaster, not to be mixed up with the Velocipaster.
Well, their main ride is like a water ride, so it's not
Yeah.
the best, but they have a really good. I don't know, actually. I've only been there once since COVID hit, but they had this thing called like a Velociraptor encounter, and it's a person in a Velociraptor suit, but it's absolutely amazing
How
because
fucking hot has that got to be?
well, yeah, probably, but the trainers or the people who are taking the pictures, they treat it like it's an actual Velociraptor, and there's a trainer, and the
Stop
person
being a
that
fucking dinosaur, Dale. You got to grow up.
but it was amazing because the guy actually hit. I didn't know you could record and take pictures on your iPhone at the same time.
I had
So
no
the
idea how to
person who
do
was
that.
taking it, which I don't think they're doing this right now because of COVID, but I'm sure they'll go back soon. He hit record on the video and then took pictures. And my middle kid was probably 6 at the time. She was fucking terrified, and it's
I have no idea
hilarious.
how to do. I see people doing that all the time. I don't know how to do that.
But then I guess Chris Pratt's kid went to Disney and did the Velociraptor encounter at, or not Disney, I'm sorry, Universal in California. And he came home and he's like, Dad, I met the actual Velociraptor trainer today.
You're like, no, what? Huh? What?
Right.
Excuse me, son. Hi.
It's like, that's CGI and there's a person inside there. So now, Colossus.
Yes, take us off. Lead us here because you did the hard work here. I didn't have a lot of time, so I will admit fully that you did a lot of the heavy research. So take us away.
It was fun research. So, like with many or all comic book characters, there are different ones in different universes. So I tried to focus on the Marvel universe, which is, 616. But then we'll go into the movies at the end. So we have Pietro. I'm not sure exactly how to say that. Peter is the Americanized version. And what he tends to go by Rasputin becomes Colossus when he turns his body tissue into organic steel.
Yes.
He is the super strong son to peasant farmers in Russia. Now, the last name Rasputin is not a coincidence, and there are actually beers called like Old Rasputin and stuff. We're gonna have to
Are you
get
telling me
some of
there's a
those.
Russian man named Rasputin out there?
Oh, he's real, and he was actually in an episode of Legends of Tomorrow as well.
And he
So,
couldn't die. They shot that man like 8 times and he wouldn't die.
so the real Rasputin is called Grigory Rasputin. He was a Russian mystic and self-proclaimed holy man with healing powers who befriended the family of Nicholas II, the
And their
last
kid
emperor of Russia,
died because of it.
and gained considerable influence in late imperial Russia. He was actually in an episode. Okay, I just said that. But yeah, they had the kid that had the hemophilia or
Yeah,
whatever.
that's
Like if
what it
he got,
was. Yeah, he was.
yeah,
They were basically like, give him this or don't give him this, and it was
right, because
fucking
he
him up.
could bleed out very easily. It was
Yeah.
like hemophiliac disease or something. I remember learning that when I was little, and then when I saw days, because when I was reading or researching all this, I was like, oh shit, he was in Legends of Tomorrow.
What?
Honestly, when I was researching this, I'm like, how the hell is there not a standalone Colossus movie? What in the hell? Why are we just getting little tidbits of him in the movie? I mean, he's a great character in Deadpool, but still, he deserves his own movie. Okay.
Yeah, his
So the comic book portrayal of the actual guy we were just talking about, he was an associate of Sinister, which we talked about as well. He's a big dude. And his goal was to knock up as many women as possible to spread his mutant powered seed all over the place.
my man.
Um, but yeah, we could keep talking about that for a
His
while, but we
first
don't.
appearance was in Giant Sized X Men in 1975. He was written, created by Dave Cockrum because they're
It
basically
was
like
drawn
a
by Dave Cockrum, written by
drawn.
Len Wein.
Yes, that's okay. So I was
Win,
gonna say
Len
yes.
Win, Win.
Initially, he had bare legs, so Dave was basically like, let's just have his top body be armor, and then he has a weakness. But Len Ween didn't like male characters with bare legs. Don't show too
That's
much
so
leg.
funny.
Look at that ankle. That's a nice ankle there. And
Could be. Don't
so
let that Achilles heel show.
he was created as a second generation X Men to save the first generation from the living island of Krakoa.
I
And
love that.
yeah, so Krakoa kind of comes full circle because they're discussing that
Hmm.
right now in the latest comic book run. And he's always been like this really gentle Russian giant. And you see that in the movies, you see that in, the comic books for the most part. Now there
Yeah.
are stories where things get a little sideways, but for the most part, he is this like gentle Russian carrying giant who just happens to be like insanely powerful because he can turn his body to metal.
Well,
So
and he can lift like 10 tons, and he goes from his organic material, he's like 6'6", which is a tall dude, and then he
yeah,
goes to 7'5". And he also jumps from like 250 pounds to 500 pounds when he's in metal form.
yeah, and
And there are other versions of him where he's even bigger.
yeah.
But when in metal form, though, he doesn't actually need to eat or perform any biological functions. He doesn't even need to breathe. But once unconscious, he does revert back to his normal organic material. This is because even his organs turn to steel, so he doesn't need any of that. But you do see
What?
in the movies, he gets like choked out at one point, and he is like eating cereal at one point. So obviously, they're not
Well,
always showing
yeah, I
that.
mean, if you're watching, X Men, he was in X2 and X3, you see his physical being. What they didn't do in
Yeah,
Deadpool was revert him to that. He was always in the armor in Deadpool.
but they said that was because he was still healing from something. So if he's been harmed, and he needs to heal, he stays in the steel kind of form.
Yep.
And there was an issue in the comics where he was injured, and Magneto was able, I guess, to close him together, I guess almost like stitches.
Yep.
But if, and that kept him alive. But if he reverted back, he couldn't heal the
Yeah.
metal.
So Magneto was able to essentially revive him by bending the metal matter in him. And so that's kind of how he survived. And he does fight Spider-Man, Red Hulk, and the Thing in X-Men versus the Avengers storyline, which actually he becomes part of the Phoenix Five After
Yes.
a disruptor devised by Iron Man blasts and divides the Phoenix Force, which the Phoenix Force, if you all know what that is, it's Jean Grey, pretty much this insanely powerful force. And
Not
it,
like in the movies.
no, God, no. One day we're going to get a proper Phoenix, but let's just not let it be anytime soon because I can't take another movie showing Phoenix powers
No.
with a shitty actress. Just, anyways, it bonds with Colossus along with Cyclops, Emma Frost, Namor, and Magic, which Magic is like Colossus's
His little
sister.
sister.
It is
Yeah.
his little sister who she gets trapped in the X mansion. He's like saves her and brings her to the X mansion, and she kind of gets trapped where minutes basically feel like years to her, and so she kind of goes crazy, all that kind of stuff. It's pretty sad actually.
Yeah.
And so go.
I was gonna say no. I want to just want to go back real quick before we get to that because there's so many good storylines to talk about. But adamantium is one of the few things that can harm him.
Yes.
However, touching vibranium can actually revert him back to his normal form. It doesn't stay that way. He can quickly go back to steel. But if anybody has adamantium, it's almost like they could have like Kryptonian gloves kind of thing. You could punch him and he can go right back to normal form. But yeah, we mentioned his first appearance at
Yep.
Krakoa, which I love that. I love that because people were getting, I don't want to say sick of the original X-Men, but they needed to open it up more. So the original X-Men were captured. And that's actually when they first assembled. You got Banshee from Ireland, you got Sunfire from Japan, you got Wolverine from Canada. And then that's when they first introduced Thunderbird, which is a Native American from the States, and Nightcrawler from Germany, and Storm from Kenya. And then that's when we got Colossus from Russia, which he actually did not want to come. He just wanted to stay back and be that gentle giant Matt was just talking about and help out his local farmers. But he stuck around with the X-Men after that.
He did.
And yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
yeah, so
he has
go ahead.
juggernaut powers at a certain point.
The Juggernaut. Every time somebody says Juggernaut, I just want to quote the movie. I'm the Juggernaut, bitch.
Bing, 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 bing. Yeah, so he does. And so pretty much,
Because Juggernaut, I didn't know he got his powers from a gem. I thought like, oh, he's Xavier's brother. He's probably a mutant too. But I guess he gets his powers from a gem. And at one
yeah.
point, Colossus got that gem, and that's how he got those Juggernaut bitch powers.
And so how like I mentioned, the Phoenix Force kind of bonds with Colossus and the others. Well, Spider-Man pits them all against each other, and he kind of pits Colossus against Magic and things of that nature. So they kind of incapacitate one another. When that's when the Phoenix powers leave him and the rest of them, but he still has a Juggernaut powers, to which Magic purges those, causing Colossus to hate her, and he even wants to kill her. So he's normally like the gentle giant, but in this case,
Mm.
he's filled with rage. He wants to kill her. He goes back. He tries to court Kitty Pryde because that's like his boo. He really just tries getting
Well, at
after
one point,
that.
he does marry her,
He does. They have kids at one point, but at this point,
and
they
he
don't.
also almost beats a guy to death for kissing her.
Yeah. And at this point, they don't. And so she rejects him and he kind of rages. And so after that, um, he dies. I don't
But it's
really.
interesting with the movies that they mix up so much of that. It's like Kitty Pride was more of like Wolverine's protege, not Rogue. And then you see Kitty Pride with Iceman, where she was more so with Colossus. And like and you see, Rogue with Gambit, and they mix up all these characters, even though Fox owned all of them. I don't know, because
Yeah, I don't. There was some wheeling and dealing. I don't understand how contracts and shit like that work. Come on, man.
I don't think that has anything. They were, I mean, if they own the characters, they were allowed to do what they want. And whenever somebody in a movie doesn't follow the exact comic book line, I respect that. I get that. You make it new and exciting for the comic book reader as well as the
Yeah,
non-comic book reader. But some of that stuff is, you kind of look forward to, like, okay, you still have that relationship, just kind of change it up a bit. So the fact that like X-Men really, outside of like Cyclops and Phoenix and Wolverine with that weird threesome, you really didn't
yeah.
see much of that.
You didn't, and so he does kind of die at one point, and then he gets revived, and
But he does at one point die for magic.
yeah, he
Um,
does.
because there was like a
Guys, I don't
virus.
know a lot about Colossus. Okay, so
Well, there was a virus that attacked the X
Oh,
mutant gene.
yes, I do know. Okay, so here's the deal. I do know about this. So there was like the legacy virus, and
Yes.
that so Beast worked with oh my gosh, I just blanked on her name. She was actually in the very first X-Men Last Stand. She's in it. And so like Beast creates it, however, it's not proven. And so the cure can
Well, they
only
need like a recently dead mutant to actually
right. And
make the
so
cure.
the cure doesn't actually become effective unless until the death of its first user. So Colossus sacrifices himself for that so that he can save magic. And yeah, he basically dies so he can save others. He takes the gene. He does indeed die. And that was again that kind of ties in with how he was this gentle giant. He's physically the strongest of the X-Men is what they also say.
So
And
strongest, not Avenger, strongest
yes,
X-Men.
he's the strongest of the X-Men, and he was a part of the Defenders at one point, X-Men, the Acolytes, Phoenix 5, X-Force, and Excalibur. And
Yes. And International X-Men. Well, that was his first job, but yeah.
yeah, so he always reluctantly uses his powers in combat because he feels his powers should be for the betterment of human and mutant kind. He actually only ever joins the uh the X-Force because Cable saves him, which I had written down and for some reason it disappeared on my notes.
I
And so
deleted it so you'd look like a fool.
yeah, apparently. So yeah, he joins the
There's no other
X-Force
explanation.
because his powers
Well,
go
that's
out of
redundant.
his powers go out of control due to the Phoenix Force leaving his body, in which Cable actually comes up with a cure for him. And so he joins the X-Force. That's how he joins them. Uh, and so in the movies, he's played by Donald McKinnon.
Wait, I got
And
more comic book stuff before we go into the
go to the comic
movies.
books real quick, please. Like I
Okay.
said, I'm not the most
So,
knowledgeable in Colossus. I'm not
um,
going to be.
when he sacrificed himself for his sister, it also seemed like a little bit of redemption for himself. While the movies do make him out to be solely a gentle giant, he does have a little bit of, they all have a little bit of darkness in them.
Yeah.
So he actually fell in love with this alien. I don't know how the fuck you say her name.
Fooled
ZSAJI.
around and fell in
So she was an
love.
alien from Battleworld, and he fell in love with her, and he sacrificed himself for her, and then she in return sacrificed herself to revive him. And then he kind of went into a bad place after losing his sister and losing her. And it was kind of weird too because he came back and then had to like break up with Kitty Pryde or some shit. But he went into a bad place, and he actually teamed up with Magneto for a little bit. He
Oh
did come
yeah.
back around, and similar to a recent Disney Plus show, his body was stolen, this time by aliens though, and they tested him, revived him, and used him to find a cure for mutants, which we see a little bit of that in X-Men Last Stand. Not that that movie was great, it was terrible, and they don't need a cure. But these aliens also wanted to invade Earth, and Sword actually diplomatically calmed them down. They were called the Ord. But there was some sort of prophecy that Colossus was basically destined to destroy their world. So that's kind of like this. There's a lot of like big stuff that as I was researching this and reading this, I was like, how do we not have more Colossus? How was he just such a minor pinpoint in X2 and X3,
Yeah.
honestly?
It's
But
it's the strongest
did
X-Men. How do you not showcase that?
right, strongest X. Every time they say that, I just picture like Hulk and Thor and like the what do you call it? The jet.
Though
Okay,
in the jet, and it's like
Quinjet in the
strongest
Quinjet.
Avenger. Me, of course.
Point Break, right? Okay, so Colossus actually has a son named Peter whose conception sounded a little bit rapey. So he saved the life of a woman in Savage Land, which we've talked about Savage Land before. It's big in a lot of the Wolverine comics and a lot of the other comics. So he saved this woman from a T Rex. So he is then coerced to participate in a ceremony to honor somebody in this ordeal who did not survive. Well, this ceremony resulted in a child named Peter, who Colossus never really knew was actually his son. But
That ain't
when
my
there's
baby.
right, yeah, well, when somebody in their family died, somebody Rasputin, this kid felt it as well as Colossus felt it, and there's just so much actual history intertwined. Like it would they really need
Real
to
life. This is real
pull this
world.
character. Come on, Kevin Feige and Disney. do this. Okay. So we went into Kevin or Kitty Pryde. So we went into Kevin Feige. Oh, one time, Rogue and Colossus actually kissed, and he was okay. They never did anything with that in the comics, but he didn't react at all. But other times they've touched, and she's been able to take his powers. But no.
I touch myself.
And there was a storyline where Colossus went full on Terminator and was able to turn into liquid form when he became one of Apocalypse's horsemen alongside Venom, Deadpool, and Moon Knight.
Ooh,
So that sounds like a
interesting.
fun time.
This is great. We're all just getting liquefied out here, man.
You would like Family Guy. That's what you sound like. All right. So there's a lot more to go into the comic books, but I feel like we could be here all night. So if there's any particular storyline you want us to break down, let us know, and I will research the shit out of it. I will order those comics
Yeah,
on
see, I'm
Gmart,
not
on
an expert.
eBay, wherever I need to. Yes, we're not
We
an
will become
expert,
experts.
but
You.
we will become an expert.
We're joining the
So
X Force. We're the experts on the X Force.
we're gonna dive in a little bit into the
I'm
movies
about to
now.
dive in. Yeah, so Donald McKinnon played him briefly in X-Men 1. Daniel Cudmore
No,
took over. What?
he was not in X-Men 1. In X-Men 1, there's a brief nod. He's like credited as a student at the mansion, but
Yeah.
X2 we see
Donald
him.
McKinnon played him in that as that student. Okay.
Oh,
First
was he?
of
He's
all,
not even credited.
I looked it up. I promise
All
you,
right,
boo
all right.
boo.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay.
Anyways, Daniel Cudmore, as I was saying, took over for X-Men 2 and 3. So actually in X-Men,
Oh,
he's like saving the
I have that
student.
in my notes too.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh, wow. What?
Oh,
You
what did I
think
fuck up tonight?
you
That right
think you
there.
know a gal, and then you're best friends, and then all of a sudden
You
she's just
think you
coming
know a
here,
guy?
and then all of a sudden you think you're smarter than me. You think I'm fucking stupid or something? You think I'm fucking stupid or something? Stefan Kapichik voiced him in Deadpool,
But
where he stayed. What?
we didn't talk about Colossus throwing Wolverine
I
because
was
that's an
getting to that.
amazing
I was
scene.
just going over
Okay,
who
sorry. You
plays
went to
him.
Deadpool. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm gonna shut up right now
I'm
and
just
drink this
I was letting
fantastic
you
beer.
know the actors for each respective film he was in. So Stefan Kapichik, however you say that, I've been drinking, has voiced him in Deadpool, and that's the two movies you saw with Colossus in it. He was in the first Deadpool, where he throws around the racist girl who played in Mandalorian. And
The
then
racist
he
girl.
was also in Deadpool 2, where he played a bigger role and with Negasonic Teenager. She was awesome. And so
Negasonic
that's
Teenage Warhead.
yes, Teenage Warhead, blah blah blah. My bad. She was emo. Loved it. Anyways, go ahead.
I feel like that pretty much summed it up. Yeah.
Well, no,
But
you want to talk about like there's a really good scene that showcases that he loves them, because there's the scene in the X Mansion where Stryker's folks are all coming through there, and he's really like getting them to safety
yes.
and all that badass stuff. Like that was a fantastic. The whole scene in the X Mansion was
Mm-hmm.
great. You kind of saw every like Wolverine was a fucking savage, and then every like
Just berserker
yeah,
raged.
Iceman got to showcase his powers. Rogue showcased hers. Colossus had his moment. Everyone had a good moment. It was great.
I need to rewatch those movies. I own them all. I need to rewatch them.
Aren't they on
Yeah.
Disney Plus?
So, I'm not sure. So they're like slowly putting them on there, but I mean, I still have that trilogy on DVD.
That's unfortunate. You paid money for those. Oh
I paid like,
wow.
I remember buying them and my friend Kevin going, "Why do you
Hey,
like all those superhero stuff? Like, where did
Kevin.
that come from?" That was when my love for superheroes first started. I bought all the Spider-Mans. I don't have Venom. I just bought the first two.
Nobody
And I
buys
bought,
Venom. Ugh.
well, the third one, not Venom. I mean, Spider-Man 3. But
Go
you
out and
remember
buy
the,
that right now. Are you kidding me? That's the best one.
do you remember the bin at Target with like the $5 movies?
Go to Walmart. They still have it.
I haven't been. I try to stay out of
Oh,
Walmarts.
I'm
They
sorry.
creep me out.
Walmart's underneath you. Oh, Walmart's beneath me.
It's beneath me.
I
Not
only
completely
go
beneath
to
me.
Louis Vuitton and Target.
I
Excuse
don't
me.
own a single Louis Vuitton, motherfucker.
Excuse
I
me. I
own one.
shop at
Okay.
Coach, and
I Nope.
then
I don't shop at Coach.
I
I
go to
own one.
Chanel.
I don't own anything Chanel. I own one Dooney and Bork, and you know what's on that shit? The Avengers logos is on that shit.
Oh, excuse me. I only
It's
shop at the
my
finest establishments.
most
I
prized
wear the
possession.
finest of clothes. Like everybody wishes they were me.
It's the most expensive piece of clothing or purse that I own. I spent $150 on it at the Avengers store at Downtown Disney. It's a Dooney and Bork, and it
Look,
has the Avengers logo. It
I
has Hulk. It has the Iron Man symbol. Oh, it's beautiful.
I
It's
spent
gorgeous.
$250 to meet David Tennant, and I took a selfie that was my big head and not even him in it, so I
I
can't
only
talk.
spent 100 to meet David Tennant. Why'd you spend so much? Did you get something more
Dude,
than I got? Oh.
yeah, I made a baby that day actually. I'm not
It
even
really
kidding.
cost you. It cost you more
That
than
was actually
250.
the day my son was conceived. So, fun fact.
Yeah, definitely more than 250.
It's an
Where
18-year
were we?
commitment. 250. I don't know. Movies. Yes, favorite movie moments. I loved when he was choking the racist bitch out in Deadpool. And
That's
he
Deadpool. But in X3, he does when they're in the simulator room with the Sentinels. Like Wolverine tells him like throw me, and he grabs Wolvie and just chucks him, and then
you
you
must
just see Hugh
toss me.
Jackman go, rah! But I felt like that was a character that if they hadn't totally fucked up at X3, it would have been better, and they could have done more with Colossus. It was just like a wasted character, kind of.
Wow, welcome to every DC fan's life with all of their characters.
Womp womp womp.
Anyways,
But
no, he's great.
Feige will
I
fix it.
bless us, Kevin Feige, your only hope. Because I do believe Colossus is a great character. He's wicked strong, kid. He's great. And really
Brother.
we don't really showcase him until Deadpool because he's kind of at the forefront of both those movies. He's Wade, you must do the right thing. You just do one superhero moment, just one moment. It starts with one moment,
That
and
wasn't too
then
bad.
he just shoots him in the fucking head. It's great. And so
That was amazing. Just like boom.
wait, it starts
Yeah,
with
he's
one
the moral
moment.
compass.
And he's just like, oh,
It just
it
takes a
is.
moment to be a hero.
It was great, and he's like this big shiny metal doofus, and he is the
I
moral
love
compass.
Deadpool.
But then, of course, Deadpool is Deadpool, so he just does whatever the fuck he wants, and it's great.
Where's Francis? That was amazing. But yeah, it was interesting they chose. I feel like they kind of chose to keep him in metal form because they didn't want to cast somebody, maybe. I don't really know.
Extra money,
But
okay? It's
money,
cheaper to
money,
pay a voice actor
money.
than it is to pay these real actors. Then you
But
gotta
the
pay. Well,
voice
no,
actor was more involved in the second one.
I will say that the budget for it's a rated R movie, right? So the first one was kind of a
Mm-hmm.
leap of faith in Deadpool.
Oh, the
So
first one was so
it's a rated
amazing.
R film, and Ryan Reynolds, I think, like he went through hoops and all sorts of things to get that movie made. So yeah, it makes sense. They were really on a short budget, so all the money, rather than paying like an actual actor to go back and forth, went to obviously the CGI
Right. And they had to cut out a bunch of scenes too. And like where he's like, shit, I left all my weapons in the cab. Like that was because they
because
had
they
to
were
cut
out of
out a
money.
whole yeah,
Yeah,
they had to cut out a whole scene that involved him with guns and stuff. There's another motorcycle scene with Francis and whatnot.
Francis.
But no,
Yeah,
we
they ran
could
out of money.
yeah, we should do one on Deadpool too. And like what is it, Dopinder? That was actually like a
Yeah,
nod to a friend from high school with Ryan Reynolds that had passed away, and he was like, oh, he was a cool dude. I wanted to give like a nod to him.
I wish I could be friends with Ryan Reynolds. I
Well,
do.
who doesn't want to be friends with Ryan
He's beautiful.
Reynolds?
Like he's like the greatest dude on earth. Are you? He's like,
Other
oh
than when he was in Green Lantern.
Canada.
Although I believe Deadpool got delayed because he sucked in Green Lantern.
Well, it wasn't his fault, first of all. Anyway, do you have anything else for Colossus here? We kind of we gave you a rundown. It was not in depth. If you want some in depth shit, go check out Comics Explained because Rob kills the game and we're just a couple of knuckleheads
Oh,
out
he's
here
amazing.
drinking beer, not knowing what's going on. It's just one of those things.
Yeah. But yeah, no, we dove into it a little bit, but yeah, we could go on for a while, but if there's a
If
specific
I could
story you want us to break down,
turn
yeah.
back time. I don't know what that has to do with going on forever,
I don't
but
either. Maybe Days of Future Past. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe.
I believe he was in the Days of Future Past story in the comics.
Maybe. I don't know why it started.
Oh, did we talk about his older brother? His older brother's a
No, we
bad
didn't
guy.
talk to him. Ooh, is he a
His
bad guy or
name's
is he a bad
he's
guy?
a super villain.
Wow, so terrible. His parents didn't love him.
His name's Mikhail Rasputin. And I suddenly feel like I have to sneeze. But there's a whole other thing with him, and there's a couple other universes with Colossus that he gets bigger and badder. I think that's it. I think we
Ooh.
did good. I mean,
Uh,
we've already been over an hour.
yeah. If you have stuck with us this long, good
Shout
on
out to
you,
you.
because we're a few beers deep in, and
It's
we
National Beer Day.
we're just living life. We're just living life. And next week we're going to talk Kevin Smith movies. Oh my
Snoochie
god.
booches
I can't wait.
with
So
some movies beer.
Snoogans, we have some movies beer. I got a couple of lagas. And I'm going to, you know what? Dunkin' Donuts is ignoring me. So maybe I can get K Smith to at least. He likes our tweets all the time. So I don't know what he's doing over there.
I know. What's up, Kev? What's
Does
up?
does Kevin like our tweets, or is it a robot who likes our tweets?
Or is it Kevin's assistant? Is it
Or
Jay? Who
is it
knows? We'll
Jordan,
find out
who is
next week.
Jay Muse's wife, because that's his agent?
You know, I love in the that so in the new Jane Silent Bob movie that Kevin Smith's daughter plays Jason Mewes' daughter, and then
Yes.
Jason Mewes' daughter plays Ben Affleck's daughter.
It was great. And I would love to have like Jason, you know what? Jason Mewes, all of them. I would love to have them all
Yeah, we'd love to have.
on.
We're working on that, folks. Stay tuned. I am looking forward to rewatching some of the movies. I rewatched some of them at the beginning of quarantine just randomly.
We just watched Dogma, and my wife just watched it for the first time, and she liked it. That's my favorite Kevin Smith movie is Dogma. It has Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, George Carlin. It has everybody.
And
Oh my
Matt Damon
god,
is Loki, which is why
he
he's Loki
is.
and Thor.
It has everybody in it, and Chris
It
Rock's in
really
it
does.
as the 13th Apostle, and
And
the
Selma Blyack is like a muse.
yeah, and oh my
Jason
god,
Lee is a muse turned demon. And then you have the
Alan
guy from
Rickman's in it too.
yeah, I was gonna say he's Megatron, not Megatron,
Megatron.
Metatron.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Megatron is a
Megatron. Let's say
transformer.
Transformers. Calm down, Michael Bay.
Metatron is an angel, and he is the scribe of God.
Yeah, and so that's a fan. You can't find it anywhere because Kevin Smith
You can
pretty
find it
much.
on YouTube.
Oh, YouTube. Okay, so
That's where
Kevin
we
Smith
watched it.
basically called out Harvey Weinstein for being a prick, and so since they
A
were
pervert.
well, I mean, he was a rapist. Let's call it what it is. And so
He
he
raped a lot of plants.
the
Sorry.
Weinstein company owned and put on that whole film, and basically was like, all right, fuck you, Kev, and
Right.
purged it from the earth. But we have access to it.
Yes, you can find it on YouTube. I watched the whole movie on there. And what's funny too is like after I watched the movie, I had recommendations of other YouTube videos to watch. And there's a video of Kevin Smith boycotting
Yeah,
dogma with
he does
other
it.
religious people. And then the video, if you can find the proper video, and we can post it after we actually share our Kevin Smith
We are going
episode.
to talk about it on that show episode.
Yes, where he is actually at like a Comic-Con where he's talking about boycotting it, and then they switch to like the news clip where he's boycotting it. It's hilarious.
Yes, it is. It is. It's great. It is awesome. So let us know your favorite Kevin Smith movie, your favorite Kevin Smith moment.
And
I
how do
love,
you feel about interspecies erotica? We'd like
yeah,
to know.
let us know. Do you like interspecies erotica? Why is The Hobbit? We're just a bunch of walking. Ooh, bloop, ring. Let us know how you feel about that. Or Mallrats, where Yondu actually ate pretzels covered in shit. Let us know.
Brenda?
Let us
Sorry.
know. Just let us know. All right. And we'll be back next week. And stay tuned for more action. Follow us, Geek Hops, on Twitter, Hops Geek News on YouTube. Oh, no, not YouTube. It's on Instagram. Hops News on YouTube. Thank you for joining us. We are out. Cheers.
Snoochie booches.
This has been a Hops News production. You can find Hops News on all your favorite podcasts and social media platforms at Hops News. Cheers.